Welcome to the Chicago Bears Podcast, a presentation of ESPN Chicago, Chicago's home for sports. Here's your host, Pat, the Designer.
This comes down to guys being on the team next season at the end of the day, right? Because two of the guys that you named are up for contract extensions, and you're hoping that they're going to be able to show out enough for them to prove that they're worth whatever they're asking for. But we've got four guys basically coming up on their second contract: Chase Claypool, Kmet, Jaylon Johnson, Darnell Mooney. Of those guys, somebody's going to have to go. Who do you think is the person that is the odd man looking in at the end of this season?
Well, right now it's Chase Claypool. I mean, that's the obvious answer because he didn't do anything when he got here last year. And I do think the dip in production from his rookie season where he just absolutely shined to kind of working his way out of Pittsburgh. It's not really an organization where you see players that get drafted and developed by the Steelers end up moving on before their rookie deal is up. I think that is, I don't want to say an indictment, but I think that's pretty telling that the Steelers were willing to deal him at the deadline and get a second round pick back so then they could start rebuilding, whatever they want to use, like the resources that they got for that trade. I don't remember exactly what they used a second round pick on for Claypool this year, but anyways, I just think that there's something to be said about him needing to earn this in Chicago this year, and the Bears, rightfully so, slow playing any sort of extension talks about Chase Claypool, where you've heard more speculation and buzz around Kmet, around Jaylon Johnson and Darnell Mooney, and there's mitigating factors for everybody. Mooney's coming off the injury this year. Will he be the same player that he was before the game against the New York Jets?
Yeah.
Jaylon Johnson has one career interception. This is a defense that's predicated on takeaways. Do the Bears want to, do they want to see more production there? Are they comfortable? Like, hey, play out this year. We'll see how it goes, and then we'll talk about it. And Kmet, there's a reason they went out and got Robert Tonyan, for this offense. Kmet's not your deep vertical threat for the tight end position, and Robert Tonyan is. So are you going to be paying a blocking tight end, or at least that's what we expect by proxy of bringing in somebody like Tonyan to this offense? Are you going to be playing a blocking tight end top dollar for the position? There's some complicated, there's nobody who's oh my God, you have to sign this guy right now, because if you let him hit this season and he balls out, he's going to, hit free agency and you're not going to be able to afford him. So I would say of those four names, Probably Mooney is the one that makes the most sense as of right now, because everything is geared here towards the offense and towards helping Justin Fields get to this get over this proverbial hurdle in year 3 and prove that he's the franchise guy. But you don't do it now without seeing how Mooney's going to be able to integrate with the team in training camp, assuming he's still on that timeline because of the ankle injury.
Could there be a total reset with these names? Right, we're kind of thinking in the mindset, right, that you're going to bring this guy back, you're going to bring this guy back, you're going to bring this guy back. But realistically, the Bears have 2 picks at the top of the draft next season. It'd say a lot if you package 2 first-round picks to move up and go get Marvin Harrison, if that's even a thing. But that might be a thing because he might be that good of a receiver if they scout him as that. Could this be a complete reset where the Bears look at it and be like, I'm going to be honest with you, we'd be paying you just to say we've got somebody at the position, not because you're the best value?
Of course, because we don't know what Ryan Poles' stance is on contract extensions because he hasn't made any yet. None of the players from last year,
That's true. I didn't think about that.
Again,
he got rid of all of them.
Yeah, and he traded away, 2 players or at least 1 player that he could have extended and given a big deal to. And we're learning in real time about positional value with the general manager of the Chicago Bears. They didn't want to pay an off-ball linebacker upwards of, the number I had heard that came in initially was around 17. This is last summer for Roquan Smith. There was a big holdup there. They didn't want to make him the highest paid off-ball linebacker in the NFL. That's a priority. That's positional value. That's how you can see how Ryan Poles views that position. They drafted a running back in the 4th round. They tried to pay David Montgomery to keep him here. And they, after that, ended up falling through. They said, okay, we are going to use a high, considerably high draft pick on a running back who very well may end up being a number 1 in this offense. Learning about positional value, learning how he values a position that many have devalued in the NFL. And then, of course, hearing from Ryan Poles himself, where when you talk about those quote-unquote premier positions, it's offensive line, edge rusher, cornerback. Those are the ones that he named. So, cornerback's the one that comes up when you have someone like Jaylon Johnson who's due for a contract extension. But is he worth the big sort of, he's not going to reset the market. He's not going to do that because he doesn't have the stats to back that up. He doesn't have the contributions from, whereas like the other cornerbacks who have just inked deals over the last 2 years, who's Jaylon Johnson's comp when it comes to contract? It's hard to find one because of the lack of production in terms of takeaways, being this is what this defense is predicated on. Like it's literally the T in hits principles for takeaways. So I think it's cool when you don't have a blueprint for a general manager where you get to see in real time, this is what he values, this is what his plan is, because once the first extension happens, we'll learn very quickly how he's going to prioritize other ones in the short term and also down the line, because right now we just don't know. And he very well could say, you know what, this is part of my long-term plan, where they got through the first couple seasons, the building blocks that they thought they might have had when they inherited. If they end up extending nobody, that tells you, hey, these were not players that we felt long-term we can build around. There will be one this time next year, if not before it. If Fields has a really good season this year, and they have the ability to pick up the 5th-year option, they have the ability to extend him. That could be if they don't end up extending any of these players that we have talked about before then, which I feel it's kind of hard to believe that they would let all of them walk. But if Fields is the first one that they do, assuming that this year goes according to plan for what the Bears have sought after, then you're learning a lot about how Ryan Poles, and truly, like, you got to give him credit at that point for like staying patient when they do have the resources to make some of these deals happen, that he doesn't, necessarily do it just because it's, well, you have all these resources and you do need players on this roster, veteran players on this roster at that.
I feel like that's been the problem with Chicago teams as a whole for pretty much all of our entire existence. We look for the bargain deal on the player that's going to be the next level guy. There's going to be the hope. We pay guys off of hope. Heck, Ryan Pace paid half the roster off of hope, and we saw the entire roster regress. So I think that Ryan Poles is a little bit more level-headed like you, and so I would agree with you on that one. That you're probably not going to move on from everybody, but there could be. I think you could move on from 2 or 3 of these guys, and honestly, Darnell Mooney's best his best thing might be that he can come in and be the slot again and just be that guy.
Yeah.
And then he could just be Justin Fields' boy. Like, that really could just be like, oh, yeah, that's my guy, man. Like, we can't get rid of Mooney. That's my brother. Oh, okay. Well, he's been here the longest with you. It might work out more in his favor.